Thank you, Mr. President. Let me begin by conveying best wishes and greetings of the Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, to the President of the Republic of Niger, His Excellency Mr. Mohamed Bazoum, on Niger's presidency of the UN Security Council. I also thank UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, and Executive Secretary of the Lake Chad Basin Commission, Ambassador Maman Nuhu, for their respective statements. The statement by His Excellency the President of Niger has drawn attention of this Council to the threat of terrorism in the Sahel region and beyond. This is indeed a serious global concern. The fight against terrorism remains significant even after 20 years since the landmark Resolution 1373 was adopted in the wake of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. The threat of terrorism in Africa has adversely impacted African countries in their pursuit of economic progress and development. The security situation in the G5 Sahel countries in particular has been deteriorating in the last 3 years, as is evident from the scores of attacks by terrorists and armed groups targeting of civilians and security forces. Further, the threat posed by terrorist groups in Sahel region and beyond is well documented, including in Secretary General's periodic reports. Jama'at-Nusratul Islam wal Muslimin, affiliated to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State in the Greater Sahara, have expanded their activities. Al-Qaeda and ISIS-linked groups and Boko Haram have also continued to expand around the eastern and northern shores of Lake Chad. The attacks against MINUSMA a few days back that resulted in the killing of 7 peacekeepers from Togo and a Malian national demonstrate the danger posed by terrorist and armed groups to the Sahel region. India strongly condemns the attack on peacekeepers and expresses deepest condolences to the families of those who lost lives. India appreciates the initiative of G5 Sahel Force, a joint effort of countries in Sahel, including Niger. However, the joint force continues to be plagued by multiple challenges such as lack of training, resources, logistics, and access to sustainable and predictable financing, all of which have hampered the full operationalization of the force. The current model of support to the joint force is inadequate and unsustainable, a reality which has been highlighted by the Secretary General in his recent reports, as well as echoed by His Excellency the President of Niger just now. We believe that it is high time that the regional security initiatives such as the G5 Sahel Joint Force be provided adequate and sustainable resources as well as training and logistics support. A resource-constrained counter-terrorism strategy can be a recipe for failure. The Council needs to take effective measures, including by supporting regional and sub-regional organizations in their security initiatives. Mr. President, climate change is one of the defining challenges of our time. Over the last several decades, member states have engaged purposefully in a focused manner to put in place commitments relating to mitigation, adaptation, financing, transfer of technology, etc., so that climate change can be addressed holistically, as done by the UNFCCC-led process with annual COP meetings. The measures to tackle climate change have been built on the integrated structure that is equitable to all parties, especially developing countries. In addition to this, countries across the globe have taken on many commitments under the nationally determined contributions. Given this background, we do not think it is appropriate to draw a separate link between security and climate change, especially when all aspects of climate change are already being dealt with holistically under the mandate of UNFCCC. Any action in the Security Council ignoring the basic principles and provisions relating to climate change has the potential to disrupt the nature of our overall discussion on this important topic. To move the climate change discourse from a consensus-driven template to a possibly divisive process may not be advisable. So let us not deviate from an established and inclusive process of decision-making with all the developing countries participating and attempt to create an alternative platform for climate change. While we recognize the fact that climate change has impacted the lives of people and exacerbated conflicts in many places, however, viewing conflicts only through the prism of climate change presents a misleading perspective. The report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change clearly states that the effect of climate variability on violence is contested. There is also no clear scientific pronouncement directly equating climate change with security concerns. It is therefore important that the matters of climate change are discussed in the relevant fora under UNFCCC. Oversimplification of causes of conflict will not help in resolving them, nor can it justify terrorist acts or extreme policy measures. We have recently completed the Conference of Parties in Glasgow, United Kingdom, where we have adopted the Glasgow Climate Pact by consensus. This document contains the collective will of the international community on all aspects relating to climate change in a holistic manner and the climate action envisaged. We are firmly committed to achieve the outcome of the Conference of Parties in Glasgow based on the Glasgow Climate Pact. Mr. President, we now need to bring back our focus to where it should be, combating climate change. India, as a leader in climate action, is on track to meet its commitment under the Paris Agreement. India's climate-responsive development is evident in the announcements in COP26, where India additionally committed to reduce the emissions intensity of the GDP by 45% by 2030 from 2005 level, achieve 50% cumulative electric power installed capacity from non-fossil fuel-based energy resources by 2030, achieve 1 billion ton reductions in the projected emissions between now and 2030, achieve 500 gigawatts of non-fossil fuel energy capacity by 2030, and achieve the target of net zero by the year 2070, which our Prime Minister has collectively called it the Panchamrit. Apart from domestic actions, India has also taken lead in bringing together international coalitions to generate long-term impact through partnerships. The International Solar Alliance is a leading example of how collective action translates into positive global action. We have recently launched the Green Grids Initiative, One Sun, One World, One Grid, together with the United Kingdom and endorsed by the International Solar Alliance, which will facilitate cross-border renewable energy transfer projects. The Coalition for Disaster-Resilient Infrastructure is another successful initiative by India for enhancing cooperation and building resilience against natural disasters. At COP26, a new initiative for technical assistance and capacity building in island states called the Infrastructure for Resilient Island States was introduced under CDRI. What we need now is to enhance action on all important policies that address climate change, including fulfillment of commitments on climate finance and technology transfer. Developed countries cannot pass on their obligations to developing countries and must meet their commitments equitably on both mitigation and adaptation. Today, it is necessary that as we track the progress made in climate mitigation, we should also track climate finance and urge developed countries to begin providing climate finance of $1 trillion at the earliest. Mr. President, in conclusion, the threat of terrorism to Sahel region is far greater and more severe than many other challenges facing the region today. India has always been willing to extend and expand its capacity-building assistance to the armed forces of the affected countries to support them in their fight against terrorism. India's recent initiative in this regard have been the inclusion of Chad in our training program, ITEC, with 10 military training slots last year and a specialized in-situ training program in counterinsurgency and counter-terrorism for nearly 200 Nigerian Army personnel this year. We believe that it is important that this Council continues to extend all possible assistance and support to G5 Sahel Force in the overarching interest of peace, security, and stability in the region. Both terrorism and climate change are complex issues that the global community is grappling with. After decades of painstaking international efforts, today we have institutional mechanisms to address each of these issues. We should continue to work through these established mechanisms. This should be the way forward. Thank you.